Good evening, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Uvurkhangai Province. And for our top stories, the representatives of Great Britain and Northern Ireland expressed their willingness to cooperate in reducing congestion in Mongolia. The revised draft of the law on political parties has been submitted. And a Building Quality and Safety Conference was held in Uvurkhangai Province. And for the news, stay tuned. Mr. Daniel Kavchinsky, Member of Parliament of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland and Trade Envoy to Mongolia, along with Philip Malone, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United Kingdom to Mongolia, and other esteemed officials were cordially invited by Sukhwater, the Minister of Mongolia and head of the National Road Traffic Congestion Committee of Ulaanbaatar City for a momentous meeting. The meeting took place on the auspicious occasion of the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United Kingdom and Mongolia. During the meeting, the representatives from the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland expressed their delight in forging stronger ties with Mongolia and conveyed their keen interest in collaborating on new business projects. As a country that already cooperates with trade representatives from 35 countries across various domains, the United Kingdom affirmed its willingness to work together with Mongolia in addressing crucial issues such as traffic congestion in Ulaanbaatar City, improving infrastructure, increasing parking facilities, enhancing public transportation, and implementing large-scale infrastructure projects. Minister Sukhwater, who is also the chairman of the National Committee for Reducing Traffic Congestion in Ulaanbaatar City, expressed his earnestness in learning from London's successful methods in mitigating traffic congestion. He further elaborated that apart from the congestion, the issue of decentralization policy in Ulaanbaatar City is also under discussion, and several significant projects are being planned to address these challenges. One such plan includes exploring the feasibility of constructing a new ring road and a highway along the Tul River to alleviate traffic congestion. Minister Sukhwater also highlighted his commitment to presenting the draft on reducing the negative effects of traffic congestion of the Mongolian government and subsequently submitting it to the parliament for approval. Furthermore, Minister Sukhwater drew inspiration from the congestion charging systems implemented in cities like London and Stockholm and expressed his willingness to learn from their experiences. He emphasized his readiness to collaborate with the United Kingdom on major development projects and utilize their expertise in tackling traffic congestion in Ulaanbaatar City. The meeting between the officials from the United Kingdom and Mongolia was marked by mutual enthusiasm and a shared commitment to fostering bilateral cooperation in various areas, particularly in addressing traffic congestion and improving infrastructure in Ulaanbaatar City. The discussion held during the meeting reflected the positive outlook of both countries towards deepening their diplomatic relations and working together for mutual prosperity. The revised draft of the law on political parties has been submitted by the head of the Office of the President of Mongolia, Sukhwater, to the Speaker of Parliament, Sandashatar, on April 14th. According to the amendments made to the Constitution of Mongolia in 2019, the Speaker of Parliament stated that the party shall be established in accordance with Article 10 of the Constitution and shall work to propose state-level policies. He also emphasized that the internal organization of the party should be in accordance with democratic principles, with transparent capital and income sources and spending, and that the party organization, operational procedures, financing and conditions for financial support from the state will be determined by law based on the recommendations of the Consultative Council issued after the National Consultative Poll known as Let's Decide. The head of the Office of the President, Sukhwater, stated as a part of the 2021-2027 Policy Action Program of the President of Mongolia, laws on political parties and political party financing will be initiated to deepen the reform of political parties, improve ethics and disciplinary responsibility, and make financing more transparent. In January 2022, the President of Mongolia appointed a working group to develop a draft revision to the law on political parties, which consisted of representatives from parties sitting in parliament, other parties, academics, and government organizations, with a focus on the legal reform of political parties as a union of citizens' right to association, established by Order No. 6. Within the scope of his right to initiate legislation, the President of Mongolia has initiated and submitted a draft of the revision of the law on political parties to the Speaker of Parliament. This law has been submitted with 7 chapters and 46 articles. First, there are major provisions to hold political parties accountable. Political parties have reflected on the nomination of the right person with ethics and development policies. Secondly, we are faced with the need to develop political parties as policy institutions. It is necessary to compete with the development policy. There should be a move into this direction. Thirdly, since the issue of open disclosure of political parties' finances is very important, reports are taken, audits are submitted, and the amount of donations is also reflected. Fourth, social group and gender inequalities are taught. We will also promote equality by increasing the participation of people with disabilities. Fifth, the issue of ensuring and strengthening internal democracy of the party was reflected. The draft law on the reformation of political parties has been discussed since last year. During the drafting process of the law, the working group held open discussions with the public, meetings and interviews with representatives from parties sitting in parliament, other parties, academics and government organizations. They also sought opinions on the draft law from all political parties registered in the Supreme Court in May 2022. The proposal of the law was received from all parties with seats in the state parliament and other political parties on April 4th, and according to the law on legislation, the draft law and accompanying legislation were discussed and relevant suggestions were included in the draft at the regular meeting of the government of Mongolia on April 12, 2023. The draft revision of the law on political parties included several key points. In the first chapter, it outlines the objectives of the law, scope of application, definition of terms, rights and duties of political parties, civil rights to join the party, requirement for democratic internal organization of the party, activities of the party in the online environment, and prohibition in the activities of the party. The second chapter deals with the regulation of the establishment and registration of political parties, registration and the refusal of registration of political parties by the Supreme Court upon a referral by the Central Election Body. The third chapter focuses on the organization of the party structure based on global trends, internal democracy, human rights, gender equality, and pro-participation, as well as working as a policy party. The fourth chapter covers the regulation of considering the activity of the party's inactive, reorganization, termination of the activity of the party, and dissolution of the party. The fifth chapter outlines the conditions and criteria for financial support from the state to political parties, including monetary and non-monetary amounts, distribution, principles of financing, purpose of spending, members' tax, donations, parties' own funds, and income from it. The sixth chapter deals with the responsibility of the parties to make financial reports, submit the reports, conduct an audit, the Central Election Body to scrutinize the reports, publicize them, and account for any errors related to the parties' reports. Other issues are covered in the seventh chapter. The initiators of the law believes that the approval of this draft law will result in an improved legal framework for political parties with increased responsibility, democratic internal organization, transparent funding, and improved rights. In local regions, state and private standard constructions of residential buildings is increasing. Therefore, the Building Quality and Safety Conference has been organized in Uvurkhangai Province. Construction companies hire crews rather than employing full-time workers. In doing so, there is little supervision regarding the issue of construction quality and safe buildings. This conference was addressing those issues. Due to the absence of a professional engineer on site, malfunctions occurred during construction. Also due to the fact that a labor safety specialist was not visiting the site and no attention was paid to the safety rules and regulations, injuries to workers are quite common. Therefore, it is necessary to improve and not violate labor safety rules. Previously, this conference was held and was limited to just listening to presentations, but this time we conducted a 2-day training session. Both engineers and technicians were involved, and this meeting was organized in an innovative way, and I hope we will see good results after this conference. As of today, about 8.2% of all households in the province live in apartments. As people's desire to live in apartments increases, companies are more interested in building private homes. However, the participants of the consultation said that the work being carried out related to the state budget is rather slow, which has a negative effect on the construction industry. In 2023, 13 buildings will be built and put into operation. This year, 100 million MNT out of 800 million MNT was secured. Financing is very difficult. Banks and financial institutions have not given any loans for 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is rumored that from this year, loans will need to be secured by contracts. Recently, the quality of construction has improved, but there is still much more to be done, especially because there is no integrated mortar factory, which adversely affects the quality. The quality of concrete will be affected by how it is maintained. If concrete is not properly taken care of after mixing, its quality will deteriorate. With the development of the construction industry, there are many types of materials being used. It was discussed at the consultation that it is advisable to use the latest advanced technology, ensuring the use of good quality products. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here's the international news from our partner agencies. Protests over pension reforms resulted in clashes with police in Paris on Thursday. Police said some 380,000 people took part in the protests across France. The number was down from recent weeks, but unions still managed to mobilize sizable crowds. The demonstrations were largely peaceful, though dozens of injuries were reported among police and protesters. One police officer needed medical care. The nationwide demonstrations occurred on the eve of an unexpected ruling by a top constitutional body that they hope will derail President Emmanuel Macron's unpopular pension reform plan. If the Constitutional Council greenlights the reform, the bill raising the retirement age from 62 to 64 can enter into force. Yet the body has the power to reject the tax fully or partially. Paris police banned all gatherings outside the council from Thursday evening through Saturday morning in an attempt to reduce pressure on the council members as they make their decision. Rounding out the day of diplomacy, President Joe Biden celebrated the close ties between the United States and Ireland at an evening banquet at Dublin Castle. The Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar thanked Biden for his leadership on Ukraine. "We stand with you shoulder to shoulder for as long as it takes," he pledged.
Mr. President, we thank you, your administration and your nation for the leadership that you've shown on Ukraine. We stand with you, shoulder to shoulder, for as long as it takes.
Varadkar also thanked Biden for spending so much of your precious time on our beautiful island and for coming home to us. In response, Biden said he felt lucky to be in Ireland. The American president said there are no barriers too thick or too strong for Ireland or the United States of America, especially today.
And growing up, we called him Grandpa, my Grandpa Finnegan used to say, "If you're lucky enough to be Irish, you're lucky enough." That was his expression. Surrounded by all of you in this homeland of my great-great-grandmother and grandfather, I feel very lucky. And I really do. I used to stutter back. Whether it's when we faced famine, hardship, division, sorrow, but together we've always prevailed. A lot of pain in between, a lot of loss, but always prevailed. Together we've worked to become more peaceful, more equal, more diverse, more unified, and I think more hopeful. And so today, wherever there is a yearning for freedom, a struggle for change, a cry for justice, people around the world know they can count on Ireland. They can count on Ireland. And I believe they can count on the United States with notable exceptions once in a while.
For Biden, Ireland has been the backdrop for discussion about his favorite themes like dignity, possibilities, democracy, and poetry. The president was elated by the dive into his Irish heritage, which he often cites as a driving force in his public and private life. According to the Irish Family History Center, Biden is among the most Irish of all U.S. presidents. 10 of his 16 great-great-grandparents were from the Emerald Isle. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We will see you next week with more news and updates. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.